So there's the Worldwide Developers Conference coming this summer, where Apple's gonna release possibly 4 new operating systems. Why should you be excited? Well, I'll tell you, why don't I? That's why you clicked on this, right? Because it's software from Apple, but more important than that, software from Apple is free. And the software is the reason I love them so much. And it's not every day you get free stuff from Apple, so free Apple software. Good things, be excited. So what are those 4 operating systems? One's iOS 10, what I'm predicting to be called Mac OS, which I'll get to in a second, watchOS 3, and then the next generation of TV OS for the new Apple TV box thing. So the biggest operating system and my personal favorite is iOS. iOS has finally made it to 10 years. Wow. It's a fascinating operating system that's changed a whole lot since its introduction a long time ago. You know, like 9 years is a long time for me. It runs on many people's 3.5-inch iPhones all the way up to a 12.9-inch tablet that can replace your laptop. Don't argue with me on that. A lot of people just check Facebook, watch videos, write emails and documents on their laptops. So this tablet can do that. So yes, it can replace a laptop. Just accept that. I'll fight you in the comments if you try to say it can't. Relax. iOS powers the most popular phone of all time, the iPhone, and the best tablet on the market's the iPad. So how are they going to change it this year? It's hard to say, right? No one's been able to come forward and say this is exactly what's going to happen. Software leaks are a lot less common than hardware leaks. Like, I can tell you exactly what the iPhone 7 looks like, but I don't know exactly what they're doing with iOS 10. So here's my speculations and basically wish list. First of all, my top of my list, a close all apps function. Apple, it's time. Apple came out in a statement and said, hey, closing all the apps doesn't save battery. And I responded with, I know, I don't care. Having all these apps open actually uses background internet. And when you have crappy AT&T internet out in the foothills like I do, that means when you have a ton of apps open, your internet gets slower. Don't tell me that background app refresh fixes that. It doesn't. I've tried it. That software is lying. Closing apps makes the internet in the house run faster. Also, there's tons of people out there that are just OCD about closing apps. I know some people that as soon as they're done using the app, they'll close it immediately. So for those OCD people, Apple, just give them that simple little function that Android's had for so long, and then Android can stop making fun of us for it, and I can stop making fun of you for it. It could be added just by like the simple swipe up at the home screen with the close all apps button. It's been thought of. It can happen, so just do it. Do it! Also, I have to complain about certain features being available on the 6S and not on the 6, not just because the 6 can't do it, but just because it's old and they need reasons for people to buy the 6S. I'm talking about Hey Siri being always on. So listen, the last generation iPhone 6, not the S, just the 6, has to be plugged in to do Hey Siri. So Hey Siri is possible on that, but it takes extra power. But here's what confuses me. The iPhone 6S can do Hey Siri everywhere, but the battery is actually smaller. They said they figured out a way to manage battery life better on that phone, so that it has an equivalent battery life to the last generation, which is what I have, the iPhone 6. So I'm saying if you figured that out, add Hey Siri to this because it has a larger battery. And if you just came up with a software way to make the battery last longer, add Hey Siri to this. We know for a fact that it could technologically handle it, but they didn't do that because they wanted reasons for the 6S to sell. And it did. It's successful. Joke! No one's made the 6S joke! Yeah, okay, well, I'll just stick to the script now. Okay. What I'm hoping is that since Apple knows the iPhone 7 is obviously going to have the Hey Siri feature, they've sold a lot of the successes. Let's just admit now, let's give Hey Siri to everyone we can. We've sold our successes. It's been successful. So let's add Hey Siri to this and move on. Now everyone's getting the best experience possible. Please. I also would like to see some more iPad Pro support because there's some things that on that large 12.9-inch screen could be handled better. I'm thinking mostly about notification delivery. Like when someone texts you, it only takes up a little bit of the screen, and there's these giant black bars that get covered for no reason because it's used to being on a phone where that matters. On a giant screen, it doesn't. I wish on the iPad Pro notifications would look more like they do on OS X, where they kind of come out on the side and you can dismiss them just like that. It's a lot easier. Move that to this large tablet. Also, on all iOS devices, the volume control is right dead set in the center. And when you're watching movies or playing games, that's distracting. It covers things up. Don't you wish it was more like when you're in the Instagram app? Because when you're in there, it's just a bar at the top that shows a little volume thing. It doesn't cover up the whole screen. They thought that through. So it's about time, Apple. Add that feature. Your app developers have figured it out. You know what else would be nice? A dark mode for iOS. So instead of everywhere where it's white in the menus and the texting and the settings, turn that dark and then all the text white. That would be easier on our eyes. You're already doing it with the Apple Watch. It has text that's like that to save battery. And again, that would save battery. battery because the screen isn't using as much power. It would also look really cool. I might just use that to mix things up. There's a lot of concept imagery out there of what could happen with iOS, so I need to move on. Let's talk about macOS. There's a very good reason I want them to get rid of the 10 out of OS 10, and it's first of all Microsoft's fault for being confusing and not knowing how to count. XP, 7, Vista, 8, 10, what? 95. How does Windows do this? And now iOS has reached that 10 mark, so why should we have operating systems like iOS 10, OS 10, and Windows 10? That's confusing, so it makes sense that OS 10 would rename itself and become macOS because it's always on a Mac. It makes sense. These are all Mac. Wait a second. No, they're not. That's not a Mac. What? Never mind. So the name change. That's a great idea, but what do I want in macOS? Siri. Couldn't all iMacs, Mac Minis, and Mac Pros be connected to power all the time so they could have Hey Siri enabled? Like, what if you were getting ready for the day to begin, and since you have your iMac there, it's always there, you can just be like, Hey Siri, how's the day gonna be? And it would tell you your events, your weather, give you an overview. Maybe that's not even functional, but it'd be cool. You can use your Mac just like you use your iPhone, which I hope that Apple is gonna try to merge as much as this ecosystem to work together. But I do know they have no plans on merging iOS and OS 10 to make iOS X or whatever. They said they're not ready to merge operating system. Rightfully so, because you know how successful Windows 8 was. Yeah, everyone hated it when you merged a smartphone OS with a desktop OS. That doesn't go well, so Apple's acknowledging you can make two good operating systems that work well together, even though they're technically not the same operating system. I'm for that. I'm on Apple's side of that. And yeah, since Cortana is on Windows 10, I think that means people are ready for digital assistants to be kind of moved on to desktops, and it's a bit of a shame that no one uses Cortana on Windows 10 because it sucks and it's stupid. Sorry, I offended that one guy who uses Cortana. He's gonna make himself known in the comments. Go ahead, dislike the video if you want, whatever. One guy, glad it's working for you. Most people don't though. He's just like that one guy who uses Google Plus, like raises his hand. Yeah, that's me. Whatever. Apple could perfect having digital assistants on Macs and even MacBooks. Even though they have a battery, they could probably support Hey Siri. But of course it's an option, everyone. Relax, you don't have to force it on people. Or if you don't want it interacting with your phone and your phone accidentally hearing you when you meant the Mac, whatever, you can turn it off. But it'd be nice to have, you know, on those rare occasions that you're like, hey Mac, you know, tell me such and such. That'd be cool. It's just a neat little upgrade. Since Macs now either have a 2K resolution or a 5K resolution, I'd also like to see an update to the iTunes store. I'm talking about the movie department. Why can't we download or stream 2K or 4K video? Because we know all of these Hollywood movies we're watching were filmed at 4K, 5K, or even 6K sometimes, and Apple's getting the rights to show them, so why don't we just get the original file size, or at least a higher file size, so 4K or 2K, and let people with desktops and laptops download those, because they have screens that can play that back now. Sure, it could be a 60 to 70 gigabyte file, but lots of people have 512 gigs of storage, all the way up to 3 terabytes or more, depending on if you expand. And when you're playing a 1080p movie from iTunes, sometimes it's not even that high, it's 720. You're blowing that up on a 5K display, it doesn't look good. And iTunes is Apple owned, so I feel like they should take advantage of their new, very powerful screens and let people view them in the true glory that they are. I mean, most movie theaters are in 4K projection, so the fact that Apple makes a 5K iMac, it's like, get the original file. I don't care how long it takes to download, it'll look great on my Mac. So that's some of the changes I want to see in macOS. For watchOS 3, it's very simple. Third-party watch faces. We've all wanted this since the beginning, but Apple, I know, is aware of it. They just want to delay it so they can add it in the future. The future is now. I think we're already running out of things to do with smart wear tech. I mean, it's good and I love it, but it's just there's not a whole lot of major things you can do. I'd like to see maybe you can make a more blurred background for the home screen. Not obviously an actual picture, but it'd be cool to add color back there. Or maybe do the opposite of dark mode with iOS 10 and actually bring like white screens and color to the Apple Watch interface, because we know the battery life's pretty good. There's still people out there that think the Apple Watch has a crappy battery. It lasts 2 days, people. Just charge it for 2 hours before you go to sleep or while you're sleeping. Humans don't have a battery life that is that well. We usually take 6 to 8 hours to charge. So just let your watch charge while you're sleeping. So if we're okay with having more battery, we could make the screens on the inside look different. So for watchOS 3, it's just more customization. Who doesn't like that, right? And then there's tvOS. It works great. Yeah, it's tvOS. I guess you could make it faster and fix some bugs. I still don't have the Apple TV, the new one with tvOS. I want it bad, but I never got it. And I'm sure it's great. I'm not really sure what software improvements tvOS can get. Although I would like to see internal brief upgrades, like 32 gigs and 64 gigs of storage. That's pretty low considering you're a fairly tall TV box. I mean, we can get 256 gigs of storage on a razor thin iPad. Why don't we put that in the TV box that doesn't have a screen? What's even in that Apple TV? Processor's not not like amazing. So yeah, just update the inside specs. Give it more storage. That way we could actually view those 4K and 2K movies on our Apple TV from the iTunes store. And then give it 4K support, obviously. So yeah, that's like a full-on upgrade. But people would like it, so do that. It's also rumored that a new Apple Watch could be unveiled at WWDC, like a hardware actual upgrade, but oh my gosh. Speaking of Apple Watch, I've been talking for way too long. This has been a long video. It means it takes longer to edit, but whatever. I'll save the Apple Watch 2 predictions. Comment what you'd like to see in iOS and macOS and watchOS, anything down below. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.